Good morning. Welcome to the Heater Dynasty Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Heater, your one-stop shop for all your fantasy football needs. Today we're going to be covering the NFL Week 8 Main Slate. Focus mostly on cash, but we're also going to be looking at GPPs, tips and strategies that should apply as well. If you like this template that I have here, you can have access to it as well. For $15, you can get access for the whole season, get every single slate that's out there for the whole season long. Or you can do a weekly pass where it's $5 and you'll get access to all the slates for this week. If you like it, you get a promo code that'll give you $5 off the season access pass. So basically, you're just going to have to pay an extra $10 to get the rest of the season. Or it's available on Etsy as well for $15. So really depends on what your preferred platform is. But before we get into a huge infomercial here, let's kind of jump back into this slate and break down what we see here. I usually like to start by looking at which are the top games based on their over-under. So this week, we actually have a pretty condensed gameplay here. So we've got 5 games, but honestly, they're all very viable. So the very top, we've got the Denver Broncos versus the Cowboys at an over-under of 15.5 points. The line is minus 3.5 towards the Broncos. And, I definitely think this is going to be a super popular game. We're going to see a lot of Broncos players and a lot of Dallas players. But the only thing with the Dallas players, they're kind of pricey. So we'll have to be selective with how we play them. This one's interesting. We got Baltimore versus the Bears, and it's a 49.5 point over-under, and the line is minus 7 towards the Ravens. So all things are pointing to Lamar coming back, at least with that line. Obviously, if Lamar's not in that game, that is free money. Bet the other side. But I think we're going to see Lamar this week. The question is, which Lamar do we see? Do we see a injured Lamar or one that is carefree and running all over the field? So that's going to be a risky game, but I think there's a lot of potential risk-reward opportunities in that one as well. So we're definitely going to be looking at that. The Colts versus the Titans. So this one is definitely going to be one-sided. This is a 47.5 point over-under with a almost 15-point spread towards the Colts. So yikes. I have an interesting onslaught build that I want to talk about when we get to GPPs. But yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty decisive Colts victory here. The Bucks versus the Saints is the next game we're going to look at. It's 46.5 points over under. It's a little bit closer spread, minus 4.5 towards the Bucks. The only reason I think it's this close is because earlier in the week there's some injury concerns with Baker, and then obviously Mike Evans is out, Chris Godwin is out, but Bucky Irving is out. So there's a lot of offensive pieces missing, but I think there's going to be still a couple plays that we can talk about in here, no problem. And then lastly, the Bills versus the Panthers. The Panthers have been a really gutsy team recently. They've been running the ball very well, which is the Bills' weakness as far as run defense is concerned. So this could be an interesting game. Another 7-point spread and a 46.5 point over-under. So that's kind of the breakdown of what we're looking at so far. I've gone ahead and already pre-selected my player pool just to save a little bit of time, but we'll talk through the key players here. But let's look at it. Let's start by looking at top positional values. So things that stick out to me right away are, if we're going to start with the running backs, they got expensive. Okay, so we have Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, and Christian McCaffrey, all around $9K. This is the most expensive we've seen them all season, and honestly, for good reason. They have all been performing really well, and up until recently, we've been able to plug in at least 2 of them into our lineups, no problem. So DraftKings is tightening up their salaries and making it a little bit more difficult for us, and that's perfect because that creates a little bit more edge for us and a little bit more opportunities to take advantage of this. So when I'm looking at this, you're most likely only going to be able to get one of these in your lineup easily this week. And if you try to get two, you're going to have to sacrifice elsewhere. So for me, starting right off, Bijan is the one that I'm most interested in. So we'll come back to this top plays for me in a second, but I just figured I'd plug that in now. Bijan, mostly just because he's the cheapest of the three, and he's been consistent, and he is handling the biggest load of his team's offensive output. So if you see his weighted opportunities, he's at 3.47. Jonathan Taylor's at 2.79. And then we've come down to Christian McCaffrey. He is the one that has the biggest weighted opportunity because everyone's been injured on his team at 4.48. So he is also a solid play. But based on savings, I'm going to lean Bijan Robinson. Also, the matchup, them going against the Dolphins is going to be very easy to run on. So that's my first choice, but we'll come back to that. But yeah, so looking at the landscape, that's what I'm seeing here with the running backs. When I look at the quarterbacks, you're going to have to choose between, you're not going to really be able to, what am I trying to say? There's a split this week. So you're either going to go down in price, get the cheapest option available, or you're going to have to buy up. So when I look at it, I see Bo Nix, Lamar Jackson as some potential, and Jalen Hurts as some buy-up options. But Joe Flacco sitting there at 5,400. He's got Jamar Chase. They've got a connection. We saw that last Thursday night. That's an interesting one. And then if you want to get really spicy, Andy Dalton. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the Panthers, and we've seen him come in and light it up before. So at 4,500, that's also a tempting offer, but we will see. We'll come back to that in a second. We come down to wide receivers. This is where we're going to have to save money this week. We're looking at some cheaper options. So Zay Flowers, I've never seen him this cheap before, but it's because Lamar's been out. So they priced him like Lamar was out, but Lamar will probably be back. So Zay Flowers is a great option. Troy Franklin has started to come on as late in his second season. So at 4,200, that's a savings. Devonta Smith is at 5,900 because A.J. Brown got ruled out late this week. So they priced him as a wide receiver too, but he's going to be their primary target. So that's an option. And yeah, so lots of good stuff here. We get down to tight ends. We're going to be looking at probably punting this week. The most expensive one on the slate is Tyler Warren, 5,500. Rightfully so. He's been crushing it this season. But I don't think we're going to get to him as much in cash. However, spoiler, I think he's a great GPP option. But I think when you look at the roster percentages, the field is going to be punting either a Dallas Goedert, a Dalton Schultz, or if you want to get really spicy, a Colston Loveland, because Cole Kmet has been ruled out as well. So at a 3,000 almost min salary, that's a great savings opportunity. And then when we get down to defense, we're going to see that the Colts are very expensive, but also very popular. This is because they're playing Tennessee. So if you have the option to spend up, sure, go for it. Otherwise, teams that I think are going to be interesting, we got the Browns, who are still cheap. Yes, they're playing the Patriots, who have been good, but 2,500, they've been consistent. They've been actively getting to the quarterback, getting some sacks, some turnovers. That's a possibility. And let's see who else here is really sticking out. If you want to get nasty, they're not even on this list, but I think the Ravens have been so bad. What are they actually priced at, though? That's the question. Let's see. Let's type in the Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to be an option this week as well. Just because I think the team we've seen... Okay, so they're 2,800, so it's not even that cheap. But that's a possibility. The Browns, Colts. And then I think the one that people are going to be doing the most this week is the Bengals. Because they're playing the Jets. the 0-7 Jets, and it's just been a train wreck over there. So, all right, let's start filling this out. That's kind of the breakdown of the whole sheet. But if we're starting at quarterback, I think our top options in order, this is for cash mostly, is Bo Nix. I think he is going to be one of the more popular choices. And then right after Bo, I got Lamar Jackson. I think these are the two popular quarterback choices this week. So I think people are going to spend up a little bit over what they have been doing before. I don't think we're going all the way up to Josh Allen because I don't think we have the savings this week. But I'm thinking you're going to see Bo Nix, Lamar Jackson. So what I think will be an interesting leverage off of that would be Daniel Jones. Maybe not for cash, but definitely for tournaments at 6,100. He's been doing the exact same workload, and he's going to be coming in a little bit lower owned. And then for me, I'm going to put on my big boy pants, and I might be going with Joe Flacco for cash. We'll see. It's just the savings is there. The consistency has been there. Father Time has not caught up with him yet. And he had that connection that we saw on Thursday Night Football with Jamar. Like, I think this is a great saving spot. And it is risky, but I do think that this week it might be worth it. So, we already talked about Bijan. He's my top choice for a running back. After Bijan, Rachaad White. He's been a staple for us for cash these last couple of weeks with Bucky Irving being out. Well, Bucky Irving is out again, and I think we got to go right back to the well. So I also think this is going to be another 3 running back build week because of this right here, Derrick Henry. So since I think I'm going with Joe Flacco as my quarterback, I do want a piece of that Ravens game for cash. I think Derrick Henry at 6K is really cheap. He hasn't been great so far. That's why he's been cheap. But he hasn't had Lamar. And the Ravens' offense has just been off this year. They're dealing with injuries. And I think this is the week where they figure it out. I think the Bears are overrated. I think people are in for a surprise. I think we're going to see the Ravens of old come back this week. However, I do think Lamar might still be a little limited. So that's why I'm leaning Derrick Henry over Lamar. And I think we could see if Lamar isn't scrambling as much, that's like 3 or 4 more targets directly to, or touches directly to Derrick Henry. He might get some targets, but he's definitely going to be more on the ground. And then my last choice would be Jonathan Taylor. Like I said, I don't think you're going to be able to fit both of them in there. But if you wanted to go Jonathan Taylor over Bijan, I totally understand it. I just don't think that I'm going to be able to get there this week, pricing-wise, for cash. For tournaments, that's another story. We're definitely going to be rolling with some Jonathan Taylor. Some honorable mentions here would be Christian McCaffrey. I wouldn't fault you at all if you thought that was an option as well. And then also Quinshon Judkins. So he's an alternative off of the 6K running backs. He is sitting at 6,500. He's been super consistent. Yes, he's playing the Patriots, with a pretty decent defense, but he's been getting way more carries over as of late. He's getting the same weighted opportunities as Bijan. So maybe in tournaments, I think it's a good leverage piece. If we're going to wide receiver this week, I think your first option has to be Devonta Smith. Based on the salary savings, based on the fact that A.J. Brown is out, and also the fact that they are playing the Giants this week, and I do think the Giants are going to control the running game again and force them to pass. So I think Devonta Smith is a good option. After him, I would say Jamar Chase. He's a little bit of a spend up this week. Well, every week, but this week, what's the price? 8,100. I think you can make it work. Even with Bijan, by going down to Joe Flacco, we're going to have to try to build in a second and see if that's right or not. But he's definitely worth stacking with Joe. And then Zay Flowers. Yes, I think you can have 2 Ravens pieces in here. I think that's fine if you wanted to. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think it's a condensed target share. I think both of those players will get enough action. It'll be fine. Chris Olave would be my next choice. He, in the Saints game, they are playing the Buccaneers, and he's just been consistent. He's been getting a huge target share. He is at 31% of the team's target totals. He's getting nearly 10 targets a game. So, yeah. And he's pretty cheap, too. What is he at? He's still at 5,800. They're still being very disrespectful. And he had that long touchdown score last week. So, Emeka Egbuka, always a solid choice. He's at 7K. Drake London, another Atlanta piece. I'm not probably getting to him in cash, but he's definitely a totally viable choice. These next 2, these are where you're going to have to spend down if you want to fit all this. So I think you're going to have to choose between Tez Johnson and, in my mind, Troy Franklin. These are the 2 pieces that will make the rest of it fit with this spend down, and then also a punt at tight end, but at least none of these are actual full punts. So Tez is at 42 or 43. What is he at? So Tez is 4,300 versus Troy Franklin is 4,200. I think I'm going to switch these. Not that it really matters, but give Troy that bump. I think I would lean Troy. And then to round out this position, I got Michael Pittman for the Colts and Cortland Sutton. All right. Now for tight ends, like I said, I really think it's going to be a 2-man race between Dalton Schultz, at least for cash, Dalton Schultz and Dallas Goedert. I wouldn't fault you for either one. If we look at that position, you'll notice these are my 2 top value stacks. Dallas Goedert is up there because of the way they played the Giants last time. I think he had almost 100 yards receiving on 9 targets or something like that. So he's definitely a viable choice. He just is a little more expensive. So by default, I think I'm going to go to Dalton Schultz. Had that salary savings, and also on top of that, Nico Collins is out this week. And the targets are going to be there for CJ Stroud and the Texans. So either one of those is a solid choice. Neither of them is sexy, but I think that's where we're going to have to go this week. The next option, if you really wanted to punt, would be Colston Loveland, with Cole Kmet being ruled out. He's a 3,000, another salary savings opportunity, but I do think it's a little bit more risky. And then Kate Otten is always a good option as well for the Buccaneers, with a lot of his receiving options out as well, him being Baker Mayfield. So those are the options. Like I said, they're all kind of punts this week. So we got 3,400 for Kate Otten, 3,000 for Colston Loveland, 3,300 for Dalton Schultz, or Dallas Goedert at 4,200. Now, the only comment I will make about this is because we're punting down for cash. I don't know why I keep saying punting down. That doesn't make any sense, but whatever. We'll move on. You're definitely going to want to look at people like Tyler Warren or George Kittle when we get to tournaments. When we get to defenses, I think your best option is probably the Bengals. Colts is if you have the money, works. I would say the Ravens and the Browns. And then I guess the Eagles. I don't know. I think I'm only going to be playing with these first 4 this week. For leverage plays, I think Rashid Shaheed over Chris Olave is a great leverage place this week. You save some roster percentage, and both of them are highly involved in that offense. And it's a key matchup against the Bucs. I also think DeAndre Swift as leverage over Derrick Henry, who's going to be super popular in cash, is an interesting tournament switch. And then lastly, I already mentioned up above, but Quinshon Judkins over any of the other 6K running backs. So that's Derrick Henry, Rachaad White, even Chase Brown, who's going to probably be popular this week, James Cook. I think that's a good leverage spot. For dart throws this week, I'm going to Jalen Noel. This is based off of the game we just saw last week. He got a ton of targets once Nico got taken out of the game, and I think we'll see the same this week. Another one for the Texans, Woody Marks. I think he is a very interesting dart throw. I think he's going to get some more work in the receiving game, and he's super cheap. He's 5,100, so that would be a much more contrarian build over these expensive running backs, and then obviously you'd probably go with some expensive wide receivers in a build like that. So you could get Jamar Chase, you could get CeeDee Lamb, etc. And then the last one, he's just dirt cheap, and everyone acts like he's dead, but Jerry Jeudy still knows how to play football. He's on the Browns this week, well, every week, but he is 4,100 this week, and is an opportunity for a different leverage piece for cheap alternatives in your lineup. But let's go ahead and in these last few minutes just build a couple lineups here. So what we see now is all those ones that we picked are automatically populated over here, which is pretty cool. Kind of pares down your the slate a little bit, makes it a little easier to digest. I enjoy this because then I don't have to peer through every single player on that slate. You kind of only focus on the ones that you're interested in. But yeah, so let's build a cash one first. Can't help myself. I got to go with Joe Flacco. We're going to automatically put in Bijan Robinson and Rachaad White. And then I think I'm going to throw in Derrick Henry in the flex, just forcing that 3 RB build. We're going to see if we can fit in Jamar Chase. I think Zay Flowers is where I'm going to go here. And then Troy Franklin. See what this gives us. Oh, we're doing okay. Okay, so and then for this, Dalton Schultz. And then at 2,400, what kind of defense can we choose? Of course. Just a little too much. So for that, we got to go back to the pool, see if there's another choice. So we got 2,400 is what we said, right? See what we got here. Oh, we got to go bottom of the barrel. We could go Cowboys. We could go Jets. We could go Saints, Dolphins. I think an interesting one might be the Panthers. They've been a little spicy lately. All right, so let's do Panthers. Let's throw them in there. Oh, actually, what was that below at the 6:30? The Giants? The Giants would be interesting too. I don't know. I want to do it for cash, but yeah. Okay, so let's stick with the Panthers. This is a first time through, so I don't know how I feel about it. That's an interesting option. If you were to go higher at quarterback, you're going to have to make different choices. So let's go Bo Nix. Save a little bit. I think he's going to be the most popular cash quarterback this week. So you got Bo Nix. We're going to stick with Bijan Robinson. We're going to throw in Rachaad White. Let's go with Derrick Henry. Let's keep it going. And for this one, so we're going to have to spend differently. I don't think we're going to be able to get to Jamar Chase this way, but one build we could do Zay Flowers. And then we could do Devonta Smith. Oh, I forgot Devonta in the first one. And then we could go Troy. We go Dalton Schultz again. Oh, this is giving us a lot more savings. Okay. Oh, and then we got whatever defense we want. Okay, so let's throw in the Browns. And what do we got left? We got 1,500 left. Okay, cool. So let's get off of Troy Franklin. Can we fit Cortland Sutton? No, we cannot. But we could do, let's see here. So we got 5,700 to work with. We did Michael Pittman. Okay. All right. So what if we did that? Michael Pittman. Where does that put us? Okay. That's interesting too. One thing I'm curious about, if we did Cortland Sutton and we got off of this, do we have, oh, we don't. Okay, so we'd have to get off of the Browns. We could go down to the Panthers again. And then throw in Colston Loveland. This is a potential as well. Did I misspell it? Colston. There we go. So that's an alternative as well. But just some ideas to kind of work with. I want to quickly get some GPP stacks for you as well. I know Bonux is going to be popular, but I think it's going to be spread out enough. You could definitely do it still in tournaments. So I think a nice stack would be Bonix, Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, and then you can bring it back with CD Lamb or George Pickens, your choice. But that's a good starting place. An interesting skinny stack, or not skinny stack, just like, I guess it's skinny stack, but just one for one, I think would be J.K. Dobbins and then CD or George Pickens, your choice. But I think that's an interesting way to get a piece in this game, but then get off of it, since this game is going to be super popular. And maybe we would include that in more of a Lamar stack. So with Lamar, I think it would be an interesting build to have both Lamar and Derrick Henry, saying that you're just getting all of the touches on the ground that way. Lamar, and then a lot of people are saying doing a skinny stack. I think if you're going to do it, just go completely in on the Ravens, so I'm going to throw in Zay Flowers as well. And then you would bring it back with either Rome Odunze or Colston Loveland. That's what I would say. But that's an interesting stack to start with, combining those two and then just filling in the rest of the pieces. The only other one that I was thinking of right off the bat that I think you got to do, and I alluded to earlier, was you got to do a Daniel Jones onslaught stack this week. So you do Daniel Jones, you do Jonathan Taylor, you do Michael Pittman, and Tyler Warren. And you just say that they just absolutely demolish the Titans. And you know who you bring it back with? No one. Don't bring it back with any Titans. Just stay away from them. You just assume that it's an all offensive game on the Colts side, and you don't need any of the other pieces. So that's kind of where I'm at this week. I hope this is helpful. Tune in. I do this every week. I got the Thursday night football showdown slate I do, and then the Sunday main slate. You can, obviously, you're either viewing this on YouTube or Spotify, but subscribe, follow. I'd love that. And comment below if there's things that you'd like to see different or things that you're enjoying. But good luck this week, and we'll see you soon.